Hey everyone, Jenny Wise here from WiseMind Soul Warrior. I am so excited and honored to have Colleen Bogner on with us. She is one of our WiseMind Soul Warrior YTT students in our 300 program. And she lives, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, that she definitely lives a super busy life in her corporate career. So do you want to just tell us a little bit, Colleen, about kind of what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am a prepaid operations system analyst with Truist Bank, formerly BB&T, and I have been in the corporate world for about 6.5 years. And before that, I was an insurance agent and office manager and going to school. So I'm constantly on the go all the time, back-to-back meetings, putting in those hours for that corporate world. So it can get a little stressful sometimes.
A little crazy. I
Yes.
completely understand. I've been there. So tell us a little bit. I know you shared with me, you've been using like some breath work techniques, and like what are some of the things that you've seen, on your, like on a daily basis in your corporate job, that some of the things we've learned in Wise Mind Soul Warrior that has helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have learned so much to help regulate myself and
Mhm.
regulate my mind and my body, ground myself. I developed a meditation yoga practice several years ago. But then, as life has it, life kind of went crazy and that kind of fell to the wayside. And then, since coming to the Wise Mind Soul Warrior, learning about breathing techniques and how to better integrate daily yoga and meditation practices, I
Mhm.
found myself not being so anxious and frenetic energy and just really insane. If something came up with work that would normally kind of derail me, and I would find myself, panicked, breathing
Mhm.
fast, blood pressure is increasing, all of that.
Right.
Catastrophic. I can't say that word, but
Catastrophic.
yes,
Yes.
constant crazy thoughts. But since learning how to take a step back, take a breath, do some breathing techniques, take a 5-minute meditation, I have found that when those moments happen now, I
Mhm.
don't react like that anymore at all. In
Mhm.
fact, sometimes I don't even have to take a beat and take myself out. I just roll with it.
Mhm.
Some days are better than others. This week has been particularly stressful, and I actually had to be late to a conference call because my anxiety was really ramping up. And I took a minute to do some Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing for 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And by the time I got done, I absolutely felt way more grounded, and I was able to do this 2-hour testing call without any issues. So it's
Love
been
it.
it's been a big, a wonderful change for my life.
Good. Well, it makes me so happy because I remember when you and I were chatting about being part of the program, and I remember sharing with you about how you can start to shift, your stress or anxiety, and you can actually train yourself to notice, when you're going into fight or flight. And like you
Right.
said, when those body signs are happening with your heart rate increase and that kind of like pit in your stomach, and it's like you can almost start to feel it like welling up when you start to
Yes.
tune in more to your nervous system also.
Right.
So it makes me like so happy. I get like goosebumps to hear you like share that you're actually like embodying it and practicing it like in in your daily life, in your, at your corporate position.
Yeah, and I actually I do there's a discernible difference
Hmm.
between when I am actively intentional in starting my day with meditation and yoga and seeing that difference in me throughout the day and
Hmm.
throughout the week, and between me not making space for yoga and meditation as I unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, I have not prioritized that. And I am actually seeing and feeling the difference. So
Mm-hmm.
that just tells me that prioritizing and making space for myself and being intentional with that self-care
Mm-hmm.
is actually working, and I need to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's kind of cool. I mean, it's never cool to kind of back away and kind of not give yourself what you need and what you want, but it is also very interesting to actually be able to tangibly see that difference of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether I'm keeping up with it or if I'm not keeping up with it.
Right. And also being able to practice, like you said, not reacting and like
Right.
practicing the witness mind when you do meditate. And you're, like you said, when you're doing that consistently, you will see that difference, like you just said. And that will continue as you get deeper and deeper into your practice. It will become more and more apparent of that shift and that difference. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm way more aware now. I mean, as I said, I had cultivated a meditation practice years ago. So I've always been fairly self-aware, and
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a component of that in my daily life.
Mm-hmm.
But with starting the program, it's helped me be even more hyper aware to when feelings are coming up. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
just acknowledging it and just dismissing it, I'm actually acknowledging it and investigating it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
now second nature. Instead of, trying to get my brain to think about it, I'm now,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm feeling anxious. Where is this coming from? Why is this
Mm-hmm.
here? What can I do to not be so anxious?
Right.
And also give myself grace. It's okay. You're
Mm-hmm.
anxious because you didn't sleep a lot last night, so you're not feeling as prepared, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I love that because you're also practicing the mindful self-compassion, right? The radical
Right.
acceptance
Right.
of,
Yep.
being kind to yourself and that you're doing the best that you can. And that's another big part of the program is really like how you talk to yourself and like fully accepting yourself and letting go of the perfectionism and the inner critic voice and all the things, right? And that it's
Yes.
a process of
Yep.
peeling back the layers of changing those samskara patterns that you and I talked about this, that we've done our whole life, right? When
That's
you've done
right.
a pattern your whole life, it's going to take time to unwind that, right? And then
That's
have it
right.
be consistent. Um, so kind of share a little bit, whatever you feel comfortable with around like what really brought you to the program, like what why you started, some of the things you've kind of already shared, but like just looking at someone who might be considering starting, like where were you as far as like why you started and what brought you to Wise Mind Soul Warrior?
Yes. So, as I stated, I've been in the corporate world for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going and going and going since I was probably 19, and I'm 34 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've identified through multiple therapy sessions over the years that my body and my mind at this point is on complete depletion.
Mm-hmm.
And I have struggled my entire life putting a lot of pressure on myself. I have high
Mm-hmm.
expectations for myself. I always want to be perfect. I always want to do well, trying to figure out what does doing well mean. And it got to a point where I was so unhappy, and I've worked really hard to get to this very point that I am in my life. But it's been a very stressful few years, and my life has been kind of crazy, living in another city for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
coming back home every weekend to see my family, and building our current home, and then getting our other home ready for sale. And it's been a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
started to I started to have not so great thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
I started to just feel very tired, and I was very depressed. But I also know that only I hold the tools to help
Mm-hmm.
myself, no one else.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that it was time that I really needed to engage in a program, in something that would help give me those tools to learn how to be more compassionate towards myself.
Mhm.
I would always tell people there will not be a soul that will be more disappointed in me than me. So if I messed up at work or something and someone said, well, I'm disappointed in you. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me because I'm already, I'm already upset. And it's
Mhm.
how can I flip that script? How can I
Mhm.
be more at myself and find out who I am? And,
Mhm.
I worked so hard to get to the corporate life. And now that I'm here, I'm quite frankly miserable. So what can I do for radical acceptance? What can I do to be happier with myself and realign myself with my life, basically?
Right. And not put so much pressure on yourself, right?
Correct. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
'Cause you and I talked about this. I remember when we did the consultation that it was like holding up a mirror, right? As far
Yes.
as like our connection there with like, you see, I'm getting goosebumps again.
Yeah.
Our,
Yeah. It
our
was it was
connection.
uncanny.
Yeah, because similar, I've worked a long time. I have a lot of the same exact patterns that you have with beating yourself up and putting so much pressure on yourself. And I remember one of the students, Lindsay, actually shared, if somebody saw the way I talk to myself on the inside, there would be bruises on the outside, like
Right.
how much we beat ourselves up.
Right.
And you would be shocked at how many women do the exact same thing. Like how often it happens. Like it's definitely like probably the top 3 challenges that I've seen with all the people that I've met with, of that loud inner critic voice and then beating yourself up, like self-sabotage, and just
Oh, yeah.
like you don't need a manager to beat you up or micromanage
No,
you because you do so much of your own. And I always
that's
say that
right.
to myself, like I don't need a manager to beat me up because I do more than enough of that myself. Like,
That's
so
right.
I totally get that, because you put so much pressure on yourself and you put so much expectation on yourself. And if it doesn't meet that exact expectation of what you have in your head around the
It equals
perfectionism,
failure.
yeah, exactly. Failure, like, yeah, there's no gray area, right? When you have those patterns, it's like a pass fail all the time. And you're doing it with
Yeah.
yourself with everything, right? It's not just your career. You do it with your
Yeah.
self-care. You do it with how you
Everything.
eat.
Yeah.
You're working out, right? It's everything. And you put that pressure on yourself all the time.
Yes.
So, and I know you've gotten better with that, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, you're working on it, but it's a lifelong journey. But I can hear it. And even from when we talked, there's a difference, when you and I
Yeah.
in our consultation. Um, so speaking of that, can you share for just a couple minutes, like for the people that might be scared to get on the phone with me, they don't know me, they're like, oh, this discovery call, can you just share for a minute what that was like to get on a call with me so that people can hear it from
Yeah.
someone who's actually, done that with me?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, having a live call and a live video with someone that you don't know can be a little nerve wracking.
Mhm.
And I'm very sensitive, being an empath, I'm very sensitive to people's energies and vibing with them. And my biggest concern in my entire life is I just want to be seen by people.
Mhm.
I don't want to be judged. I
Mhm.
don't want people to tell me what I should or shouldn't do. And
Mhm.
that worries me. And after my conversation with you, I never once felt like that. And I felt seen by you. And I felt at no point would there ever be a place for judgment.
Mhm.
And I think I had told you, you know, I've been studying yoga for a long time, and I've met with people who are very strict vegans and who are very strict about X, Y, and Z. And that's not
Mhm.
how I live my life. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to enter into a situation to where, I'm expected to, you've got to do a headstand by this time. You're going to be expected to eat vegan or we'll be disappointed in you. And there was none of that. And that meant so much to me. And I knew that I had found where I needed to be and where I would feel safe and where I would feel supported and where I would feel very confident that the information that I'm getting, and if I have questions or I need anything, it's there. And, I didn't feel like I was being, here you are, here's your sheep, let's release you into the world and you're on your own. And because that always makes me fearful too, because I admit that I sometimes want my hand held and because I need help to get over that threshold of fear. And I have felt supported every step of the way. So I definitely, don't be afraid to make that phone call and have that conversation. And there's no pressure either. That's the other thing. I will walk away the moment that I feel pressure. If I feel pressured into doing anything, I will stop the conversation and I will walk away. Yeah. I can't handle that because I'm a terrible decision maker and I will waffle back and forth, or I'll cave and I'll be like, okay, I'll do it. And then, but then that doesn't feel good because I clearly didn't make that decision for myself. I allowed someone to make that decision for me. And again, there wasn't any of that. So that helped me feel like I could enter into a space of meditation and meditate whether or not I was ready to do a program like this and whether I would feel like I could get something out of it. And I took a few days. I took like a week, I think, to really think about it. And then I kept having that message, this is what you should be doing. This is what you've been looking for. It was just, right there.
That the universe, divine, like it just, yeah. Well,
absolutely.
That makes me so, again, happy and joyful, like just to hear you say that, because the last thing I want somebody to feel with any training or any program or yoga or meditation, that especially with the amount of people that we work with that are perfectionists and high achievers and type A personalities, and they're already putting a ton of pressure on themselves. The last thing I want to do is to add to that. I want to deter from that. And I want them to feel supported and held and in a safe container without judgment, because as you know, we put enough judgment on ourselves, right? We all want to be seen and heard, and we want to be in that safe container that of course is confidential. That group support that you get is all confidential. So let me just try to make sure. So what would you say is kind of, I know you talked about like the breath work that you're doing, your meditation practice, and what would be another kind of like your biggest transformation that you've seen since you started? Like if you could pick maybe like a samskara pattern, or I know you talked about how you're handling stress, not reacting, but if there was something else that you could identify that would be like the biggest transformation that you've seen.
Yeah, I think the biggest transformation that I've seen is identifying a lot of my samskara patterns and identifying where those are coming from. And instead of judging it and instead of wanting to change it, because, when we identify something that we don't like, we want to change it. But we can't always change it. We can't change our experiences. We can't change our traumas. But what we can change is our responses to them and how we manage it. How can we embrace it and use it for good? And that has been a really difficult thing for me to learn over the years, trying to figure out, my issues with food and my issues with binge eating sometimes, or, anything like that. And then doing the work and digging so deeply to find out, where is this coming from? Why do I freak out if I don't know when my next meal is coming from? It's not like I grew up not knowing where my meal was coming from at all. I wanted for nothing. So doing that hard, deep work and going through the worksheets and finding out what are your patterns, where are the traumas coming from, that for me has helped me change my relationship entirely with food, and has helped me really identify, instead of me beating myself up for eating popcorn late at night, because that's my one big vice. I can find out a way of, like, some days I'm going to embrace it, and other days I can, say no, not tonight, but and then I feel fine. There's the chatter. I guess that's what I'm getting at. The mental chatter around it has disappeared, and the stress and the pressure that I put on myself for judging myself, and the words and the things that I would say to myself were, you would never say that to a human being. So why am I saying that to myself? So a lot of that chatter has disappeared. That's probably one of my biggest transformations.
I love that. That's amazing. And that makes me so happy to hear you. Like, I remember the first time hearing this phrase, and I think I might have shared this with you, is like being gentle with yourself.
Yes.
And the first time I heard that, again, I'm getting goosebumps, was like, it did not register. Like, what do you mean being gentle with yourself?
Right.
And anyone like you and I that have these types of patterns can relate. When they hear this, they're going to relate to it without me getting emotional, because it's just like that type A personality and that perfectionism and that drive and that workaholic and all those things, stressaholic, and it just is so ingrained in our unconscious mind, and those samskara patterns and neuron pathways that have been created. But again, like you, once you have that awakening and you realize this is not working for me anymore, then you make the choice and the change to start the transformation,
right,
to turn those samskara patterns around. So that makes me so happy. So just a couple more things, and then we're gonna close it up here. So can you share just a little bit about the format, like what you've seen with the learning management system, and like how we have the checklist, syllabus checklist, like just share a little bit, the group coaching format, like just some of those pieces that you've seen.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people where I mentioned it earlier. I need my handheld sometimes. I need to I need to be directed. I can't self-pace, or I can't learn something unless there is a structured way in learning. And thankfully, I love the checklist, and I love that you can print out all of the details, all of the worksheets. I have it in a notebook. I take notes on on pieces of paper and stick it with the worksheets, and marking as complete. I love the yoga and the meditation videos. I would make it an intention that as each week would go by, every day I would do that meditation and that yoga. So that way I'm really taking that week and I'm spending it in that time, putting in that time with that meditation and yoga. So yeah, I really like the format. It's very easy to follow. I get confused very easily, which is really scary, considering I have a couple of college degrees and I've done very well, and somehow I've made it, even though I just get really confused. But no, this is great. Like, having the checklist and knowing exactly what we're going to be doing and what's next, and checking off those boxes. I really like that format.
Okay, cool. So two quick things. One, can you share just a little bit about the retreat for those people that may join us for the retreat either in November or in October of next year, which will be the 21st through the 23rd in Asheville? Can you share just a little bit about your experience at the retreat?
Yeah. So I had an amazing time. It was beautiful up there. A couple of the women I already knew from a prior retreat.
Mhm.
So we obviously, we all knew each other, but the other women that came in that we didn't know, we all became very fast friends. And it
Mhm.
was such a supportive environment. And I was really, really struck by how different all of us are, but not so different. Like
Mhm.
we come from different backgrounds and we have different, different experiences. We are in different stages of our life, but
Mhm.
it all came down to we all had very similar issues, if so to speak, challenges that we
Mhm.
wanted to work through, and
Mhm.
everybody held space for one another. And that was such a beautiful thing when I
Mhm.
feel like we're in a society where, women tend to take each other down, and that's really
Mhm.
upsetting to see. Because
Mhm.
why would you do that? But in this situation and this beautiful retreat, everybody just held the most loving space.
Mhm.
Everybody had an opportunity to speak. And if someone didn't want to speak, there was no pressure. If you didn't want to share what was going on with you, there
Mhm.
was no pressure. And there
Mhm.
was still love and still energy and still light being sent your way and space held for you,
Mhm.
regardless. And again, that was just such a beautiful thing. I really enjoyed all of the practices that we did. I
Mhm.
enjoyed the ceremonies that we did. The
Mhm.
food was amazing, and I'm kind of a certified meatitarian. So
Yeah.
I was really surprised. I've never eaten vegan all weekend long, and
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it. So um, I can't wait to go to another one.
Cool. Well, I know I'm always shocked when I go to those and like some of the recipes they come up with, and you're like, this is plant-based, you know?
Yeah.
It always surprises me every time. And even some of the recipes, because I'm not 100% plant-based, I'm more like a pescatarian, and I do eat some red meat occasionally and chicken and stuff. But it's just every time I make a new plant-based recipe, I'm shocked at times. That doesn't mean they all turn out, but
Right.
oftentimes every time I do one, I was like, wow, this like I'm not missing, the meat component because they add all these different spices. Like a lot of them are Indian based. And so they add things like turmeric and curry and all these different spices. And it's like, wow, this is, so flavorful. So I'll definitely be sharing more of that as we get into the winter and the fall too, with like some of the recipes and the things that I've started doing with stews and soups and different things. Um, so one last piece is just to share, is there any last thing that you would say to someone that was considering joining the program? Any last kind of words of advice or inspiration that you want to share?
Do it. Trust yourself. Because I mean, it is scary. Um, And while I'm probably a little bit more open than the average person to it, it still sucks to have a mirror and put it up, and that's all you have. And you're like, okay, it's time to peel back
Mhm.
those layers and figure out your koshas and figure out your samskara patterns and figure out your traumas and figure out all these things. And it's hard, but you know what? It is so rewarding because
Mhm.
when a light bulb goes off, and it goes off big, and
Mhm.
you have such a sense of peace. And that's probably been my motto for the last few years. Pick a word for the year of
Mhm.
what you want to find. And for me, it's always been peace.
Mhm.
And I haven't been able to find peace. And now I actually genuinely feel like I am finally on the road to finding peace. And I'm peace now. And
Mhm.
it's so important to do this work because you're going to set yourself up to be so much better of a person for you and for your families and for your
Mhm.
friends, but namely for you, because
Mhm.
you are all that you have at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So I know it's scary, but it's also a beautiful, beautiful journey, and you're supported. and you have other people around you who are going through the same thing. So you're not
Mhm.
alone. It may feel like it, before you embark on it, because fear tends to say a lot of stuff to us. Our
Mhm.
egos really, really want to take us down, but set that aside and walk forward and do it, because you won't regret it.
Well, thank you, girl. That is words of wisdom right there. And I'm raising my hand because I was right there with you. I think I shared this with you. When I started my journey, I was in the same position. I had to go through all the other things around resistance and pushing back the ego, pushing back, changing, even though I wanted to change, it would, it take that back and forth. So it's interesting for you all, for those of you that do decide to teach, and whatever that is for you that you decide to teach, whether it's mindfulness or meditation or breath work or the asana practice or some of the yoga psychology things that we teach or some samskara patterns, like so many different things that you could do, coaching and lots of different things with this program. But when you kind of think about stepping into like that next threshold initiation, that next version of yourself, is just getting through that process of releasing the ego, releasing the fear, like you just said, and then moving into the light. Because that's the thing about this yoga path, is that once the light's been lit, there is no going back.
That's right.
Right. And it's not an easy path, right? It's not a path for everyone. It's not an easy path, but it's a path well worth taking, because
Yeah,
you're transforming yourself and you're transforming everybody you interact with, right? It's like that,
that's
creating
right.
that legacy of peace and that ripple effect that goes out into the world, because you heal yourself first and then you can actually help other people to heal because you've gone
Right.
through that transformation.
Right.
So it's teaching through transmission and through transparency. And as you just continue to peel back the layers and, your heart space and your heart chakra becomes more and more open, then again, you're going to have more and more unconditional love to give to yourself and everybody you interact with, because you've taught that mindful self-compassion and you're living it and you're embodying it. And then you'll just walk that,
That's
you'll
right.
just walk that legacy of peace. So anyway, you can tell I'm super passionate about this work. And I care. I know you know this. I care and love like every student that I interact with, and that comes from really a genuine place in the heart and the soul. I am an empath also, so I really do feel deeply for everybody that I interact with, and just true compassion and no judgment. So I hope this was helpful for you and for everybody that hears this. That there's no other words that are better than hearing it straight from a student, because I can talk about the program all day long, but to hear from somebody like you that's in the program and gone through the changes. And I so appreciate, I know you're super busy with your corporate position and everything else you have going on right now. So I truly am grateful for you taking the time to be on here with me today. Really, I mean that from the heart. So yeah, so there's going to be people listening to this at some point. There'll be a replay going. So
Yeah.
if anybody has questions, let me know. I will put the consult call link in the comments after we post this, so you can go directly to set up a consult call. And this will run through tomorrow. And then I also wanted to quickly announce we're extending it actually through next Thursday, the 4th. So we're extending the open cart. And I will also be doing a webinar actually next Wednesday. And so that'll be a surprise webinar that you'll see pop up as well. So, and then I'll be heading back to Asheville next Thursday. So, so it's going to be a busy week. So again, thank you so much, Colleen. I really,
My
again,
pleasure.
I'm so grateful. And I am going to be seeing you soon in a couple weeks.
Sounds
For
good.
our Friendsgiving and birthday celebrations. So I will see you guys soon. And thank you again so much. I so appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.